Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Trevor.
All right, so that's it. I mean, I had some thoughts going on with the volcano. I think it'd be kind of fun, but we really should not do the volcano. We should do the and then this one.
Wow.
Is like really exciting, and this is the one I was actually considering doing, with some feedback, because it's a I don't think it's the same. It's not the same piece. I mean, this is like a drawing version. A lot of the same elements, but the debris in the sky shows up a little bit more. It doesn't have like the lightning crack, I don't think. In the painting, there's this like crack of lightning. And there's images of that as well, like real life images of, the volcano erupting and creating kind of a lightning storm because of it. And there's got to be, there's probably names for all that stuff. Anyway, this was really pretty, and seeing the reflection, and there's actually in the water.
There's a lot of movement in this too.
So much, yeah. I mean, the force up, the force back down, this like sinister, the whole composition being anchored on a sinister diagonal. It's almost like a gentle lapping of the waves, but at the same time still radiating out from the source. It's not the source of the wave, but it's from the center axis of the composition. So this would be obviously the dominant vertical, the horizon line where the water meets the land is the dominant horizontal, then the sinister diagonal is the dominant diagonal. This is like, the whole beach is on an ellipse, which is really nice. And then I wonder if that even like flows. Yeah, and this kind of like heart shape. Ooh, my God, look at the heart. That's, created from the swell. That's really gorgeous.
That poor town.
I know.
It's so like it's cowering, bracing itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the magnitude, the size of it. I mean, the thing that compares to it is the water. I mean, I think that's one of the most dramatic things when people encounter the ocean. It's just its vastness, and in a way, it holds up to the volcano, from this scene. And the volcano is almost dwarfed by even the ocean, but just this little bay in here. But then the architecture, running around, echoing the nature of the bay that was formed by the water. That's also another really wonderful thing, is how, the contours of the sea line formed by the ocean, how man adapts to that and builds his architecture relative to. So it's almost like an aspect of nature continued through man. These have the sails up actually, and that's even creating further movement, an indication of the wind. So this is actually a really good piece, and it shows, there's this little triangular moment down here when you have these like reflections of the light off of the people, and you also have the reflections of the light off of the waves. Those are kind of nice. All right, let's see what else is there. And then, but this was the one that, and then this one, I think I sent this one. Did I send this one?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
I just thought supposedly this is a rendering of what Vesuvius looked like during the explosion. So this is after they did, excavations, probably in the 17th, 18th century. So the Sublime painters, Constable, Caspar David Friedrich, Claude Lorraine to a degree, gives a generation before Turner. Turner basically emulated Claude Lorraine, and they were just really moved by nature and its magnitude, and so they would just keep going out and trying to find more dramatic scenes. So it doesn't take long to come to big events in history, natural disasters, and so that during the Sublime period, the renderings of the firmament, just like the way that the sun rises and sets, and those types of like grand landscapes, truly grand landscapes, storms. Anyway, that's why the volcano kind of became popular, at that time. The humans or man was exploring glaciers, going way far north. They were just like looking for scenes that no one had ever seen before, in the spirit of exploration and also, aesthetics. So then this is another reproduction of it. That's, when you look for like, when you're like kind of searching the net for images, and color schemes, this is like a kind of a nice, and I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, who knows? I've never seen this painting in person actually, but Turner was kind of famous for using a lot of yellow and kind of getting criticized for it, like in his landscapes. But so he would, because of his color selections, and that's the thing. It's like, is it the fact that he loved sunrises, and dramatic sunsets, that he was gravitated towards that color palette, or did he enjoy that color, the color palette, the range of colors, and then he would search out those colors in nature? It's hard to tell. And it's probably, a little bit of both. They probably fed into one another. And the piece that we're really gonna, did the images come through, by the way?
Yes, you did.
The pictures of the boats, not there's a second one that came through.
Yeah, no, I got the first 5, but then since you told me to watch, nothing's come through.
Okay.
At least not for me.
Yeah. Ooh, here it is. Okay, so yeah, that's Vesuvius from the bottom, and it's weird because it looks as though this is like a road that's creating the spiral, but the spiral actually exists, and man has made a road out of it. It's just another view. You can see the city and the water in the background. And I don't think it's been active, for a very long time. And then this is what Turner looked like, by the way. It's not the best reproduction. It was just, this is a daguerreotype, so photography had like just come out. I mean, within like 5 years of his death, was photography.
What year was this, Trevor?
What's that?
What year was it?
Well, I mean, in my mind, Turner is 1830, but it looks as though,
because photography was alive and well around the time of the Civil War in 1865.
He was born in 1775
and died in 1851.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so 1775. So in my mind, he's his like the heart of his work is 1830. Like where he's like kind of his most popular paintings. I'm looking at the book right now. 1842, 1844, 1842, 1838. So I think these are some of his late pictures. What does this say? The painting exhibited here is the decade leading to 1845, the year Turner was named the president of the Royal Academy. Okay, so yeah, this was like these pictures. So I guess it's really 1840s. He was deemed the president of the Royal Academy in England, in London. He received, he was very popular in his day, which is kind of cool. Most artists were, but there's some kind of mythology that they weren't. They had to die in order to become recognized or whatever. So what was the question? It was like when was this?
Right.
Yeah, so I guess this photograph was probably, in I mean, if he died in 1851, it was probably within 5 years of that. I mean, he looks pretty old here. I think this is the only picture that survived. There's a movie called Mr. Turner that is, about his life, and it's a drama. I don't know how much they really know about him. He wrote a treatise on painting, which I've never read actually. I've read some of it, some of his quotes and things, but maybe I'll get that treatise. That would be nice.
So
At least it'll be in English.
His work kind of coincided with the Hudson River School people.
Really?
Which is interesting. Yeah, I was just looking. So yeah, they kind of overlapped a little bit, but you look at some of those paintings and they definitely have a Turner-esque.
Yeah, I wonder how influenced they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to look for I really, it's kind of like the lineage. Like if you want to understand Turner, you have to understand Claude Lorraine. And in order to understand Claude Lorraine, you kind of got to go all the way back to like it might even be like neoclassicism. We'll see if Kristen said anything. Okay, let's see what we can do. I think it's gonna happen soon. So check my emails.
You can buy a wall mural of this painting.
Which one? The
Wayfair, Turner, the Fighting Temeraire 19th wall mural.
this one of this painting is like super popular.
$81.99.
$81.99. That's it.
Yep.
Well, that seems well spent. So, yeah. I'm gonna try this one. Nope. So annoying. Do you think it's on canvas, Steph? Do they print it on canvas? Well, at the very least, I did want to set up I did want to sketch Mount Vesuvius because I've never, and it's a little shout out to Pompeii, and it is a really, it'll be a really good warm up, I promise. And then if I can get this other email sent to you, then we can dig in and sink our teeth into the right thing. Uh-oh, Kristen's coming. We might have to take a break to get this thing sent. Did you see it?
Is that a picture from before the eruption? Is
Yeah.
that something we dug up? Yeah.
Yeah. This was like unearthed.
Wow.
I
What's
know.
on that? Is that grapes? What's on that guy?
Yeah, I think it's a Bacchus. I mean, I don't know if it's a Bacchus, but it's
Yeah.
just, the spirit of
That's wild.
wine. I know. I mean,
That's
it
something,
is
something
such a,
Lady Gaga would like to wear.
I could see that.
Yeah, and
I'm
she's in
surprised.
that Gucci movie. That would be perfect.
I mean, I'm surprised that it hasn't been, tried. The other thing is that because that would make. I guess they did. They turned it into a Fruit of the Loom ad. The grape guy. The grape guy. Although the berries were a lot bigger in that costume, if I remember. All right, so
I hope so.
let's sketch this down. And I think we'll use we're just going to use a cube seen from below, and I guess where I want to, oh come on, just got to get below the shadow. There is kind of like an angled thrust to the whole tower, and there's a side of me that wants to draw the entire thing, the big swooping triangle, but I think I'm going to resist that. I've been like kind of moving away from that, because you always have to change it, but I do want everybody to like at least see that there is this big long side. This is a longer, steeper angle, and then this is kind of like more sloping, and then there's like an arcing slope on the bottom too. And I guess it looks a little bit pyramidal, but like I said, there's kind of this like spiral circular path that runs around it. And if you can see through the vigorousness of the paint and kind of like the excited execution, there are some like solid structural elements in there, and it is very snake-like. And I think you could understand why the snake might be a symbol for this formation.
Not to interrupt, Trevor, but your email just now came through.
Okay, yeah, that's great. It's because there's a competent person working on it. Okay, cool. So we should be set up. We should be set up.
Bless you.
God save you.
It's Sophie, my daughter.
Okay, so if I zoom in on this block, which is going to be so good. Wow, I didn't even see that. But do you see how there's this is the part that I'm thinking about. Like, see how there's this wrapping? There's this S curve that wraps around, and then it reemerges on this side, and then it's going to wrap around the back, and then it curves all the way up to the top here. So it kind of hooks. So there is a snake that's spiraling all around the structure. So when you get, I got to zoom back out so we can see this, and then I'll zoom in for the details later. So let's just build it off, very gently. So we'll have two sides to this cube, and I've already gone a little bit too large on my mountain, but that's okay. This is the cap that stands out, and then instead of doing this little bump right here, I'm going to move to the first kind of ridge. You almost want to imagine, and I talk about this like with eyelids. So you almost want to see this is like a lower eyelid. I love that it's a path that I get to describe. I get to use a lower eyelid to describe the path, because I always show the lower eyelid as a path going around a mountaintop. You can imagine, I'll just draw this little flat plane here. Almost imagine that you can see it. Now it gets obscured, but this is kind of what's happening. And then there's a steep slope that comes down here, and then you know, the next path, the second one down is the one you can really see. And it's going to have a much thicker path, you know, a wider path, I should say. And then that's going to curve down the side as well. So it kind of disappears in a little bit. It's a little bit ambiguous. And then if we tumble down this side, there's kind of like one more landing that is not quite as prominent as the second one, but I think it still counts. And you can kind of see that all of the S curves seem to be kind of flowing down the side of this hill here. And if anybody else, and I don't feel bad, but I was going to say is I haven't really, I think I've drawn this once before. I may not have been in a fully coherent state of mind, but I just have to keep zooming out, so because my mountain is so large, but it's okay. So we've got the top tier, which is this, you know, this cube, and we can add this almost like the peak cube, that like top vertical cube, and then it's got a smaller counterpart on the right, and then one on the left. And then there's that peach, kind of this little bulge on the side, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. I suspect that there might be some kind of connection between these two, the top peak and the side peak, but it's a little ambiguous at the moment. It may be helpful to think about light and shade. Not details yet. We're just going to do the structure, and then we can add some more forms. So the light is coming from the left. So we are getting a little bit of there is a core. Oh, that's nice. So there seems to be a core of the shadow. So there's the light side of the mountain, then there's the shadow side of the mountain. And then there seems to be where the light turns, you know, the edge of that cube. This seems to be the core of the shadow. So we get that side, and it's going to come out, then it's going to come back down again. And it looks like it comes across this path, comes down, and the mountain, according to my scale, is even just taller. So we'll come down this side. The drawing is so loose and fluid, which is wonderful. I mean, the person that painted this, you know, had like tremendous confidence. I mean, incredible confidence, to the point where I'm like, I think they might actually just be like a folk artist, because they just were so reckless about, not reckless, but just, you know, not fussy, just kind of like going for it. And, you know, they may have been painting these murals in people's houses like all over the place. Anyway, so I'm just going to include the shadow side and the core of the shadow. So I've got a wall, the path comes out, I've got a wall, path comes out, we've got this steep slope all the way down this side. And then I don't know what all of that stuff is, but it looks like there's some, you know, some like rock ridges, and this is where color is kind of helpful. But if I don't have color, I can find the texture. There's this little orange, you know, kind of, you know, rock slope before we get into the, you know, the valley, and it really is a valley. We have some, I don't know what these little like mimic mountains, they're like mini-me mountains. They have a side plane like we just made, and then a light side, and then a shadow side. So we've got, you know, that the little bump, and there's a couple of them. So whatever formation created this mountain, it seems like it's being repeated in the smaller scale. And, you know, it's just amazing how clearly the artist is thinking in terms of, you know, simple two-dimensional geometry, or three-dimensional geometry, simple three-dimensional geometry. There's this little green field that, you know, levels out, that brings us from the main mountain base to the two little mountain ridges. And then the whole thing seems to take place on, an arc. So that was the kind of the base of the mountain that I didn't want to necessarily get into at first. And this mountain seems to be springing forth from our, our grape guy. So I love, and I'm wondering if, oh, that's what they are.
Is that vineyard? Is
They're
that a vineyard?
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I was wondering what this little grid work was.
Vineyard.
Yeah, and it's a vineyard. So it's actually like an farmed side of the hill.
Far side.
And it seems to be like a little, like this little gridding, this little XY. And then where they intersect, I assume that's where the vertical poles go. So I just did an XY grid, finding the side, gridding out the side of the hill, and then where those moments interact, that's where you get the, and I don't even know if they're poles necessarily. They've got to be a fence, right? Because they grow, the vines grow on. Do they grow on a line?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they train them
Yeah.
up on the wire.
And I love that they get smaller as they go up the hill because they're trying to get further away. I wonder if these vines go all the way up the side. And that looks like there's a little, I don't know what that ridge is. It could be a little piece of architecture. It could be a hill, shadow side of the hill, and then cast shadow. I think that's kind of important to see too. We don't need to draw this guy. Might be a lesson for another class, but. There's a steep ridge that comes down here going back, focusing on the mountain, and we can find the side of that, and the edge of it is a little ambiguous because of the foliage, kind of trees, bushes, I don't know, something growing on the side. I love just following these kind of vigorous strokes of the artist's brush.
What kind of paint do you think they used?
I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's fresco. I'd imagine it's fresco. Fresco is basically plaster with watercolor painted into the wet plaster, and then it dries, and then the plaster dries, holding the pigment in place. It's a really very permanent form of painting. And then I think if you guys don't mind, we could sketch this little bird too, because he's such a cutie. And the whole bird is set up on an axis of this S curve, so you can follow the beak up through the head, back of the head into the nape, down his spine, and then out through the tail. So with birds, it's nice to just find there's a little notch at the back of the head, if you can find that. And I think it's kind of like right here, at least in the mind of the artist, that there's a separation between the head and the neck, and then that neck enters into the nice egg shape of the body, and then there usually is a little tail. It's actually part of the part of the musculature. And then you have the tail feathers that attach to that. The bird's wings, they swoop up on an S curve, but as you're sketching it, you want to see it as a shoulder to elbow, very short, and then elbow to wrist, and then wrist to knuckle, which is give that kind of structure of the feathers there. That's the bone structure, and then you can thicken that up with the skin and the feathers that come around it. And it's important to think like that because then the feathers have their own groupings. So there's one grouping of feathers here, another grouping of feathers here, and a cluster of feathers up here.
Excuse me, Trevor.
Yes, Dace?
Did you send a picture of this that we're doing?
This was in the first set. Was it not?
Let's see.
Yeah, we got it in the first set. There should have been.
Yeah, it's the one with the snake. The bird is above the snake.
Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a minor character, but he's so good. It's like there's so much in this piece.
It's right under my nose. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, but it's also not that obvious. I didn't know that we were going to do this. As far as the bird goes, the obvious joint is the ankle. So it's like ankle to the ball of the foot, which is the tips, and you get the little teeny talons. But then when you go back up, this is the ankle, the heel of the bird, and so it goes up to the knee, and then from the knee into that thigh, it gets buried into the feathers. And we'll just get the heel to the ball of the foot, and then these two little talons. I can't tell what type of bird it is, but I know that it's a dark feather up against the dark wing that's facing us is up against a much lighter wing. So just the that concept that I always talk about of linear perspective, lower contrast receding, higher contrast coming forward. It's just so wonderfully demonstrated in this very simple sketch of a little sparrow or whatever. But like this wing with the hard silhouette, it's 2 to 3 degrees darker, than the faded wing that's in the background. And that's intentional. It's just a very simple concept of perception. And you'd be surprised how few people are confident employing it. I love that there's some cooler notes. The value doesn't change that much. I guess maybe you could say the silhouetted edges are darker, but then there's a nice blue section in the middle. I'm just shading in my feathers. For better or for worse. I'm going kind of dark here. Maybe if I can soften this. I don't know if it's gonna get softened. That wing is so dark. But there's some wonderful little finishing notes. These little dark notes that the artist pulls out at the end, punching the darks. I might just do a mid-tone over the whole thing. Goodness. It's only 10:30. That's good. We had a little bit of a late start.
Oops.
I love this bird. It's so cute. Yeah. And if we did have all day, this would be this little spiral, this garland, how it twists and turns. Top, side, bottom, top, side again. So in case you hadn't finished the mountain, I'll put this back up there. See if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything in the background really. There's a couple trees down here. It smooths out. Some hard edges to the side of our little mounds. Ooh, what's that guy? What do you think that is? That's a tree?
Yeah,
A tree.
I think it's a tree.
I think so too. There's a couple trees in the middle here too. Oops, sorry. Kind of lining the side. There's a couple on the trees on the platform, you know, not the platform, but the path. And part of the way that the edge of the mountain, you know, that mountain does have a nice contour, nice silhouetted contour.
There's a dog there behind Bacchus.
I know. It could be a leopard.
Or a leopard. Oh, maybe
I think
so,
it,
yeah.
I think it actually, I think
Yeah,
it
it's a
actually-
leopard.
Yeah, it's a leopard.
A drunk leopard.
Mhm.
And what's he got in his hand? Oh, it's a wine glass. He's pouring out the wine glass for the leopard. Yeah, I think I have that glass. All right, we'll do it. Maybe a 3-minute warning on this one. I guess we already drew Bacchus. It was just we could go back to the was it Poussin?
Maybe.
He was the Poussin. We could just put him in a grape outfit. That would be a fun Halloween costume. I've seen people do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They wear like a purple leotard and have purple balloons.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Just a bunch of grapes, yeah.
I've never seen it, but that staff, goodness gracious. And that chalice. I had not introduced any of my blending, but it might unify Vesuvius here. And then tying it together, I'll be able to come back in with some dark notes. I mean, the overall shape and value of Bacchus, he's actually very dark. Almost, and so is the bird for that matter. You don't realize how light the mountain really is. It's like framed by those two dark notes. I made my grapes too close to the mountain. That's okay. All right, you ready to get into these boats? Did anybody not get the boats?
Got him.
All the things that I wanted to do with Mount Vesuvius drawing by Turner, we're gonna get to do in spades with with this piece. It's called the Struggling or the Fighting Temeraire, I think. How do you pronounce that? The Fighting Temeraire. There's a art historian named Walter Benjamin, who everyone has to read when they're, in art school. He uses the this piece as kind of this like linchpin between eras, and kind of talking about the Industrial Revolution. And this is like one of the first representations of a steam ship in the history of art. And it kind of pulling the traditional sailing ship, into the port as a tugboat, and also, with like all the greater cultural significance. Now, you don't want to make too much. You don't want to make too much of the technology, even though Turner really was in a position where he could see the future, and the Industrial Revolution kind of happening. And you see it a lot more with like the smokestacks in Seurat, like the Seurat paintings, all the Impressionists, showing, modernization happening. But the reason I wanted to do Vesuvius was really because of Turner's abstraction and the how wonderful he is with his value transitions and his color transitions. And I'll see if I can move this over. And I really do apologize for my shadow here. I don't think there's really much I can do about it. Maybe I can pull up the. This is the book. This is the piece that's actually in my book. Maybe I can. I don't know, guys and gals. There, that's minimizing it a little bit. It's also minimizing the size of the image, but that's okay. That's the best I can do with the zoom. It's so. Let's just we can talk about it. So the main event, obviously, thinking about the contrast, we've got this tugboat, which has a circular element. This is like the the steam powered paddles, and I think it's happening on both sides. So there's a drum, like this cylindrical drum, which demands a lot of attention, in that it was a new form for a lot of people to see, and so is seeing like a smokestack on a ship. So we have this like dominant vertical in the whole picture. This is the dominant vertical here, combined with a cylinder which has an ellipse. It's and the cylinder itself, the way it's seen, is it looks like a circle. And I don't know if there is any kind of like phallic association with the dual paddles and the smokestack in the middle. I don't know. I mean, this is the first time I've ever actually thought about that, but I can't help but think that is probably a factor that's going on. Even still, this is the main subject, and it's a much smaller boat. It's a much smaller vessel than this, slightly this faded with the sails down ship, even though this is a much more grandiose, structure, and it's much more decorative. And, the amount of craftsmanship that goes into this versus the amount of technology that goes into this. I mean, we're talking about like hundreds of years, thousands of years of refinement to get to this kind of the peak of a sailing ship. I mean, this is probably the highest level of marine engineering that is in existence. And then this boat is dominating it with its new technology, if you want to call it that. That's the message of the picture. I think this is a buoy over here. The picture is being balanced out. I mean, let's just talk about the composition for a second. This is the dominant horizontal, which is the horizon line, which is classic for marine landscapes. It's on the lower quarter. So if I'm putting this line here. This is the center, and there is a dominant horizontal. Not the dominant, but it is a very powerful horizontal element in the sky. It's picking up, the way that the sun, penetrates the clouds, creates these kind of, I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but there's these like glowing moments in the sky that are brighter than others. And this is happening, in the middle here. So the sun, setting over the horizon, which is ambiguous, by itself creates, a vertical. So we need to be aware of that. But with the man-made objects, with the technology, there's a whole series of almost cathedral-like vertical draws that happen with the arrangement of these, multiple ships. So there's this massive ship here. There's two, I don't know if they're schooners. There's two smaller ships behind the steamship, and then there's the same massive ship off in the distance, actually full sail, and then we've got another smaller one. I realized that last week we did the Van Gogh sailboats, and I didn't really mean to make that connection. I mean, the Turner came first, Vesuvius came second, and then the Marine, this painting, kind of fell out of it, and it's like it's nice to know that this is the right move because of the connection that we had with the Van Gogh, and obviously Van Gogh knew about Turner pictures. This is kind of interesting. Yes. Okay, so I've studied this not studied it, but I've known about it for 20 years. I got turned off by the painting mainly because of the essay, the Benjamin essay, which is, you just have to read it. It's annoying. It's been a long time ago. I just dismissed a lot of the ideas that came from it. But I just realized that there's the sun here, and it's creating the reflections on the water. And I'm looking down here. I'm like, what is creating these reflections down here? I mean, we got the reflections, but what is this highlight here? And if you ride it up, there's a moon. There's like, it's a very soft crescent moon that's happening right up in that corner. So you have both celestial bodies, and then there's this, and I think it is kind of a yin and a yang, like a masculine and feminine. I mean, that's the play that the sun and the moon has had for humanity forever. But you have this like concavity with the sun and the clouds here, like this low moment. This is a sunrise, it's Apollo rising, and then it S curves up here. So there's this like S curve of clouds that runs through the entire composition. And, you could kind of break the piece down into two halves if you wanted. I mean, almost like two paintings. There's, a seascape over here, and then there's just like a sunset, on this side. So the framework for the picture, like the breakdown for the picture, is going to be this, horizon line, which there's a couple blue notes here that might not even be the horizon line. I'm not exactly sure where it is. I think this might be the horizon line here. There's a little shoreline over there. There's a shoreline definitively on this side. There's actually another boat in silhouette here. So we do have a triangle of land here, a very thin triangle of land here being framed out. But there's the sea and our earthly realm, and then there's the horizon line, and then there's the there's the sky, the celestial realm. And these boats, kind of because of their ability to be floating on top of the water and his low proximity in terms of the constructing the picture. I mean, we're very low, and he's cropping it so that we see a lot of sky. I mean, just a tremendous amount of sky. But yeah, so there's this flow that runs here, and I guess, I mean, you could even follow it coming off screen. Watch, you can't really see it, but imagine this bottom part going off screen, coming up, and then wrapping back in to here. So there's kind of like this big C shape, this big oval that exists, in the warmth of there. I'm picking up some rays of light here. Do you see the radiating lines that are happening? Also, very similar to the Vesuvius, with the explosion, creating like a linear thrust at some point, balancing out the curves. Yeah, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm also wondering if this cloud up here is getting where it's receiving all of its light, because the top is definitely light and then the underside is in shadow. And I'm wondering if in some kind of artificial realm, if I just cover this side, whether this moonlight could in theory be responsible for some of the light that's hitting that cloud. I don't know. I mean, when I cover this side, you can see how much cooler that sky is. Very soft warms. And then when I cover the left side, how explosively yellow and orange the right side of the picture is. And even on the water, this thin kind of blue line that starts really kind of highly intense here in high contrast, then it spills into this alternate time of day. It almost feels like a different time of day, like the sun is rising but the clouds are still blocking, so we still have what is it when the sun hasn't risen yet but it still starts to be light? It's not like twilight's when the sun goes down. Dusk, yeah. So we've got a dusk environment over here, then we have the sunrise environment over here. So there's a real that's what a passage of time. We have two times of day existing simultaneously, which is really
The sun
cool.
also, you see a reflection of the sun on the cloud above as well as below. I think it's kind of interesting.
Are you talking about this right here?
No, right, just above the sun, on that cloud, that dark cloud, there's that little semicircle there that sort of looks
Right
a lighter semicircle.
Oh, yeah.
No, go down.
Down.
Right, just right there. No, right, just right on top of the sun.
This one, the dark one.
Yeah, but there's a little lighter semicircle as far as I,
Right
that's
here?
it.
Yeah. This is going to be just magical. This is going to be a magical place to draw, and I think it might be worth it just to look into it right now, on a slightly closer. Yeah, I mean, there's this. I think we would agree that this is the sun. Do you think this is the sun?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the sun is hitting hitting these like darker, this thicker clouds, I would imagine, and there's this light moment up here. And there's that orange semicircle. So it's like a yellow sun, orange semicircle, and then almost a brown glow around that orange semicircle. That's really cool. I mean, it's really, really cool. I mean, there's a side of me that thinks that this might be the sun up here.
Oh.
And then this might be a reflection off the water down there. But because you can't, from this view at least, you can't tell where the water is actually. I think if you run your horizontal over, the horizon line has got to be like here. So I think the sun is kind of halfway going down.
Well, it's interesting because you expect the water to be blue, but it's not, most of it.
Right.
It's all kind of golden and brown from the sun.
Yeah.
So how many boats are there actually there?
That's a really good question. I mean, is there a ghost? Oh God, did I just draw on my book?
I mean, is that little dark
Is
spot?
this a ghost? Is this a
bottom
ghost?
right?
Yeah, well, that's my question. This must be a boat.
Yeah.
And then is that a boat too? Do you see these vertical elements that happen?
See, that looks like the city behind the boats, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, and a bridge. Is that a bridge?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Maybe
Wow.
they're sail masts, but they look like.
I think those are sail masts.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I mean, I don't really know. But like, look at the way that look at how it's scraped.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, at least in the film, I think that's just generally Turner's reputation is that, he was very liberal with how he applied paint, messed with paint, layered paint, scraped it out. Very, very loose. Like his compositions are tight, but like very ephemeral and did things with paint that, that were, had never really been done before.
Well, if you go all the way to the right, it's definitely the buildings of the town. And then
Yes.
as you pan to the left, I think they are sail masts, I think. But
Yeah.
It almost looks like an extension of the little town, but I don't think it is.
That would be so cool if it was.
There's a curved line. There's a curved line that looks like the shoreline in a bay.
Yeah,
Like
Right
way in
under the sun.
distance.
If you blow it up, you really see it right there. Yep.
I see that.
Yeah, so we will.
Kind of like the Vesuvius painting. The
Yeah,
boats are the,
No, yeah, and it's not it's like these things all informed each other. And that's how you can,
Yeah.
he used the same concepts and repeat them over and over and over again. So he would use that. There's just no doubt that would be a design element that he would employ. So in one sense, the picture is like an unbelievably simple composition. So if I were to just pull it up real here, I want to do like a just a thumbnail sketch. And this one is nice. Oh, that's a Vesuvius, sorry. All right, hopefully they show up. See, look at how different this reproduction is.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Wow.
like, is it the same picture? Like, I don't even know. I mean, it obviously is the same picture, but it's just so the reproductions are so different. I mean, look at the sun. I mean, look at this is like, you have a circle and you have an orange and you have a yellow, like this little highlight. Anyway, it's wild to see that. Better sheet of paper. So when I talk about a thumbnail, so all I'm looking for in this little sketch are these are like the main elements, and I'm not going to be able to sketch the whole thing to fit into my Zoom, the window that we're using to kind of communicate here. So if you set up a horizon line, I'm going to try and set this up low. So this is the bottom of my picture. So here's the horizon line. I'm going to do just this side. This is the corner here. I've got to have my boat, which I'm going to use as a flat rectangle with a vertical element. Then I'm going to make my second ship, which is another rectangle. And then those have the masts, 1, 2, 3. We'll just call it that. Get these kind of little crosses in here. Okay, so these are the elements, and there's like a little sailing ship back here, and there's a little nub. I mean, everything else is basically negligible. So I can pull my horizon line all the way across, and then so I'm separating the sea from the sky. And then I can see the top of my picture will probably be up all the way up here. And that shadow, that's convenient. All right, and then we have our vertical element where the sun is. So I'm going to put the sun seemingly going down. There's a sun. And then I'll do our little, like the semicircle dark cloud. And then the orange above, and then the yellow highlight. So you have those three elements. Very, very freaky. And then we'll do the side of my picture here. So we have the sun, and then that's going to S curve up into these clouds that are above. And then we'll have the moon, the crescent moon up there. This element here, does anybody know what this is? Is it
It's a buoy, I think.
You think it's a buoy?
it looks,
Did they have buoys? I mean,
Or maybe a piece of, like a log.
I see it as like a log.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see it as a log. And I think it's a hugely important component to the picture. Even though who the hell, like, I don't even really know what it is. I think people in the sea might know, like people that were familiar with this environment. So we have the reflection off of the water, and that's a big thing, but it's also ephemeral. I'm trying to look for like solid objects here. And then we'll have that cylinder turned to the side. It almost looks like a smokestack coming out of the water.
Mm.
And then that has its reflection. So these are the elements of the picture. There's a little rectangle here. Who knows what that is? I think we just don't know what it is. It could be another tugboat, but if it was another tugboat, you would probably see the smokestack, and there's no kind of like smokestack there. With the boat in the water, you're going to have its reflection, and we're going to have this reflection. They're going to have the moon reflected. So I guess what we should think about is, what's happening below the line, and then what's happening above the line. And what's happening below the line, you have physical objects that are reflected in the water. And then we're also going to have elements of what's happening above the line in the celestial realm with the clouds happening below the water, reflected in the water as well. I mean, these are the radiating lines from here. There's almost like this explosion that happens out from there, which is actually more visible in this lighting than in any other. So we have this reflection of the sun in the water, and then we have this reflection of the moon in the water. That's what's happening. Now, this is seeing the entire picture as a whole. Now, this realm that we're looking at, I sent a detail. One of the details I sent to you was this rectangle. And this is where we could spend, this is where I think we need to focus. Unless you wanted to do a different part. It's like, we don't have time to do the whole thing. So if it's like, do you want to do the sunrise and the abstraction of the sunrise and the reflection, or do you want to do the the boats and the nature of the arrangement? And we could make this like a two-part project. I mean, it's like, yeah, I think we could do this in 2 weeks. I think it would be really, really interesting to kind of bridge these two elements of man-made realism with celestial, ephemeral, basically abstraction. There are two movements kind of like captured in this one piece, and I think that like where Turner was in history and then where his personality was, this painting really does reflect all of that really well. I mean, say what you want about Walter Benjamin, but he recognized a masterpiece, and not only, and more than a masterpiece, but kind of like a critical art historical moment where all of these elements were coming together in a really unique way that could happen in no other time. So I mean, so Turner was able to reflect his era and the changes that were happening, both internally and externally. And there's just something really beautiful, about that. So we're very thankful for him and he choosing to paint. So what do you think? Should we let's maybe what if we kind of had our vegetables and steak with the boats, and then we can kind of we'll allow ourselves a little bit of dessert this week as well, and then next week we could have a really I mean, I guess it depends on what you prefer. Yeah, I mean,
either's fine with me.
Let's do the boats first, but when we sketch the boats, just do them on a piece of paper, a realm on a piece of paper where you can have a lot of a big area around it. So just don't make them the boats too big. And I think we'll be able to, we might be able to get through the boats pretty quickly. Actually, I mean, there's, for as much detail as it seems like it has, just like the Van Gogh when he did the boats, the boat that was close that had the most amount of detail, And then, you know, it becomes suggestive very, like, relatively quickly. So I think that's also something to consider too, that this might look a little bit intimidating, but but it's also very manageable. And we're gonna be able to, you know, unearth a lot more discoveries than even we have had so far. Okay. So now the question is, do we go off of my, do I go off of my screen, or do I go off of the book? Do I go off the book, or do I go off of the computer? I think we'll go off the book to begin with, because it's just so nice and there's so many details. It's just a really good reproduction. So we'll go off of that, and then if we need other, if I need other interpretations and different color schemes, we can zoom in and do that. I mean, it's just, I think it's so interesting just looking at these two boats, these two different reproductions, and like the range of value, the range of colors that exist. It's like one is a green boat, one is green, and the other is orange. And you know, you're gonna sit here and try to tell me that. Let's see, I think this is a master copy. Yeah, so this is actually very helpful too, because this is another human being's interpretation of the same thing, which is, you know, sometimes even more useful seeing.
The paddles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're gonna be less subtle. Is there a person back there?
Yes.
I mean, this is
Oh
not.
my God.
Remember, this is not Turner. This is somebody else interpreting.
But there might be someone on the Turner too.
But exactly. So we might be able, like, this person will help us discover what we need to.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is.
This is the one.
Well, do you think there are lots of
This is the one I sent.
crew between the two, like to the left of the smokestack? Are there a lot of crew in there? Well, I don't know what period this
Yeah.
is.
Oh, you're saying,
Slaves?
Oh,
you're saying between. There are no slaves. He did do a
Right.
painting that was famous. He did do a slave ship painting. That was also, you know, very, like, it was actually purchased by John Ruskin. And you know, because it was a social commentary. It was a you know, anti-slavery, you know, slave trade picture.
Do you
captured?
do you see that?
Yeah,
to
like
the right of
whether
the
there's
person?
people in here. Are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, or people on this side, even on this side. I don't know.
It looks like a bunch of people.
It does.
Wow.
I mean, this is.
I don't think it's a party.
I think it is a party, actually. This is not a you know, this seems like a really dramatic scene, but it's actually, it was like really commonplace. I mean, it was just a reflection on, like, wow, look at that. We've got steamships now. I mean, could you imagine just like, we've got, you know, non-wind powered boats. You know, no one has to row, and no one has to, and we don't have to rely on the wind. It's just an amazing, you know, concept that he was, you know, kind of reflecting on. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if there's people in there. Do you guys mind if I go and refill my coffee?
Ooh. It looks so empty.
It is empty.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
It
take
doesn't
a
look empty.
moment.
Now it's empty. So yeah, let's take it like a 3-minute streak, and then we'll come back and we'll take down this boat. I mean, not sink it, but we'll.
Well, she's on her way out anyway, because I was reading about her. She's a ship being tugged to her final berth to be broken up for scrap.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's even more symbolic.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's her final journey.
End of an era.
Yeah. Her final journey.
Wow.
A celebrated gunship which had fought valiantly in Lord Nelson's fleet.
And her masts and things had been removed. Where did I read that?
Okay, so this is an interesting take on it. Okay, so it's, in the same way that the 18th century grand tourists, this is like the century kind of before, had admired paintings of ancient ruins, so 19th century crowds came to admire the picture of a ghost-like ship against the sunset. In both cases, there was nostalgia, the sense of loss of an idyllic era. This painting symbolizes the passing away of an age of sail in favor of the steamship and iron vessels associated with the Industrial Revolution. The warship and the sunset reflect the passing of time when a great sea battles were fought, and the steamboat, with all of its smokestacks, alluded to the power of the new industrial technology.
Nostalgia for war?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there is like a lot of, I think there, it doesn't seem like it's popular today, but I think there really was nostalgia for sea battles, great sea battles. I mean, it was like these empires were formed based on, you know,
Yeah, the power of their sea fleets.
of their fleets. Yeah, Navy. I mean, it was Navy. I guess this is is this a Dutch ship? Is that what someone said?
That's a French word, though, the Temeraire.
Yeah.
It says the Temeraire is already a ghostly shape fading away behind the solid form of the squat little steam tug that pulls her along to her fate.
Yeah, nice.
There's an
And she's being towed by 2 tugboats.
2.
Yeah. So that
Where's the
explains some of those other shapes behind.
Oh.
Dang.
Maybe.
I don't know about that one. It could be. I don't see.
They're bringing her
you would
in.
see a second smokestack.
Yeah,
Right.
you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All of her cannon, anchors, and assorted hardware had been removed and salvaged for the Navy to use as spare parts. So she really is ghostly, fading away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get some coffee. I'll be right back.
There's a video on the National Gallery's website
Oh,
about it. 25,
good to know.
yeah, 25 minutes or 26 minutes long.
Uh,
Would anyone like to show show their volcano, the Mount Vesuvius for pics?
I'll show you. It's a pretty hasty looking, but yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Do I need to?
Okay.
Nice.
Can you, a little closer to you, away from the screen, and a little bit to your left hand? Yes. Thank you. I
You're welcome.
love your bird is in flight.
It's like he senses that there's going to be some trouble there soon.
With the boats?
Yeah, no, with the volcano.
Oh. Anyone else? Renee?
Mine's really rough. I didn't get near finished, but
Oh, wow. And freeze it, my dear. Thank you.
Sure.
And is anyone else in the house? I don't think so.
Looks like they all abandoned you.
Yeah,
Well, Trevor took a break, so they probably are all getting refills.
right.
I did finally finish the guy that was slaying himself.
Let's see.
Kind of finished it. I mean, that thing is tough.
Let's see.
Oh
Oh,
my
wow.
God. Really?
Lot of-
A little closer to you. And a little bit closer to me. Hold it. Good, good, good. And freeze.
lot of
Your pieces are reading, at least on the screen, as watercolor to me.
Is that right?
They're so, yeah, they're beautiful. So,
Thank you.
what's the word I want? You're welcome. It's very like watercolor. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't.
Adele,
What did I miss?
would you like to show Mount Vesuvius?
Oh, sure.
Oh, beautiful.
yeah.
And freeze.
Oh my God.
Nice.
You could have been a painter in the time of Pompeii.
Great.
The bird.
You might have been.
Mary and Grace are not with us at the moment.
Did we see Reni's while I was gone?
We did.
While you were gone, it's not that big a deal.
Can we
It
see?
is actually. So I'm sure Rini might be happy, could be happy, would be happy to show it again.
Oh, for the love of.
Yep, yep.
Stacy, what I do for you, I'm telling you.
I'm so
Nowhere near
flattered.
done, but
Oh,
That's a nice
Got-
mountain.
yeah, you got Bacchus in there
Yes.
too.
well, the bubble guy, I just threw in there to kind of give it balance, but I didn't put any effort into it. So that's why I'm a little bit ashamed of it.
The bubble guy.
The bubble guy.
Stacy,
Trevor,
you show
can
yours?
you hold yours up again?
My bubble guy?
Your volcano.
My volcano. There it is.
One.
Yeah.
Everyone else's is so much better than mine.
I don't know.
I think that's
No, I
the way-
don't think so.
I think that's the way it's
That
supposed
just
to be.
shows you you're a good teacher.
Exactly.
Your
I let the teaching
figure
of the ancients come through. Like a
is
good
amazing.
orator. I'm an art orator.
No
Yeah,
comment.
What?
Horror. Oh, never mind.
I think that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, so my
Mary?
all these drawings will be for sale soon. I'm trying to make my have you guys seen the this ad? Oh God, it's so funny. Because my buddy Warren, he makes
Great.
birdhouses. And there's this ad that was like seemingly made for him. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up. Videos. It just cracks
While
me
you're looking,
every
oh.
single time.
Grace, will you hold up your Mount Vesuvius, please?
No.
Snap. Oh snap.
Thank you. Oh, and
That's
if you can, that needed to be up so I could see the bird. And closer to you and freeze.
I prefer that.
Oh. Wow. Hold on. Okay, let's see the other.
Just a warm up.
That's just the ladies.
Oh,
You remember
that's
the ladies?
So lovely. Yeah, definitely.
I forgot about those two. I like that one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
We could just draw Gwen John forever. I wouldn't mind setting up a Gwen John. That's all we do.
Mary is not with us yet.
Okay, you ready for this one?
Ready.
There's modern man. Oh, come on. Okay, here he goes. He goes, Scott? So this is what I'm going to do with my drawings.
Can help turn your business into a website with an online store. Now that's a sales perk. It's web possible at Bluehost. What? Nice birdhouses.
Nice birdhouses.
With an online store.
Anyway, I have 2 interns coming, and I'm going to make them make an online store for all my sketches.
There you go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, they'll be very, very reasonable. much less expensive than a birdhouse. All right.
Keep this small because we're just doing half.
Okay. So, I mean, like if we go like, so this is the whole picture here. So then if this is my drawing, I'm gonna need my boat to be like, if this is the whole picture, you know, the boat's got to be like this big.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So it's got to, I mean, it's got to be kind of small because the whole thing is not the boat. There's a lot of detail.
You know I'm not capable of drawing.
Yeah, and you could even think about it like this. So this is
Go big or go home.
this is halfway. That's halfway on the horizontal. Then I can go, this is halfway in the middle. And then the boat is going to be
Wow.
halfway here.
You put it that way.
And then you can, I mean, I hope you're serious.
Oh my
And then
God.
it's like that.
Nice grid.
Is that a nice grid?
Time to get out the ruler.
I didn't do that. I want to do that.
Is this on the golden section? Is this
I wanna
designed on the golden
Do
section?
that. Trevor, don't move those.
Is it a logarithmic spiral? Does he know about it? Could it be real?
Could it be?
Yeah,
Okay.
so the boat is, and that, I mean, if you think about it, that is, you know, less than, that's a quarter,
It's
and
teeny.
that would be a 16th. So yeah, it's like 1/16. Yeah, that the window that the boat occupies is 1/16. Anyway, whatever. Let me zoom in here. This boat's going to be glorious. Now,
So it may after all be a
how am I
party
going to
boat.
get to do this? Will I have to go like this?
Yeah, that works.
That's better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pretend that there's no stacks yet. Oh wow, that's great. I'm having a good time. I'm not scared. All righty. Oh my God. Oh God. Because then it's all about the reflection. All right, so I guess I'll sketch the boat, and then I will then move it to the side. I'll fold it, and then we can do the reflections. The reflections are like so gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Look at the extension of it. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So we'll see how this goes. So I feel like the place to start would be, you know, this angle right here, you know, with the that's the bow, right? There seems
Yes.
to be this axis point where the bow of the boat comes up, and then we're going to get the moment where the water, you know, has overlapped, the contact point between the water overlapping the boat. So we're going to come up, and then let's just try it. Okay. I'm going to start low so I can get that, so I can fit that smokestack in there. All right. There is a thickness to it.
You're
Why? Too small?
Pardon?
Is my drawing too small?
I can see.
No. I just wanted to confirm you're starting with that V. You answered
Yeah,
it.
I like
Yeah.
I like the idea of the V. Now,
Yeah.
it's not really a V. It's really this. It's like a wedge.
Yeah.
So there's the front of it, and then there's the side of it. And then the crazy thing about that is that then you get the this
Mhm.
little the arrow point that comes out. So this is all light here,
Mhm.
and then the front of this is light, and then the side and underside is all in shadow. And it has to be that way because the light source, the sun, is coming from over here, just off screen. So the boat is being illuminated from the right. And I suspect that this might be, highlights. So all these highlights that are happening in here, how we talked about whether these are people or not? I think that they might be, and I think it might be the light on the side of their faces, which is also awesome. So there could be, there might be there has to be a sizable crew, because then someone's got, the guy's got to, tend to the boat, but then also, tie up the ship. And then I'm just gonna call this the boat, the tugboat, and then that's the ship behind it. And then look at this glow. If you look at the, there's the potato eaters. It's one of Van Gogh's early paintings. There's a family of potato eaters, and then there's this little girl that's in the foreground, and she's facing away, actually. You see the faces of all the adults, and then she's facing away, and there's this bowl of potatoes that are steaming, and they create this aura around her. And I had not noticed, but it's either the mist or the way that the water's being shot up, or it's the intentional separation that Turner is trying to create between the boat, the dark boat, and then the light background, the highest contrast. There is an aura around this boat, almost in a biblical kind of way.
Like a halo.
Mm-hmm. Halo, and it goes all the way around. It's down here, and then it comes up, and it's very prominent in the back, and then also on the side. You can actually see water pouring out of the side of the what are those boats called?
Where?
What are these paddles
Is it-
called? It's a steamship, but
Oh,
they're
yeah.
is it a paddle? Not a paddle boat.
I think it's a paddle boat. It's like a steamship too.
Yes.
Oars.
Not sure. All right, so we'll build.
Trevor, I just sent you a picture that might be really helpful.
Okay.
It had a lot of detail.
It's amazing. Wow. Who did that?
I don't know how I found it. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, that's quite the interpretation. So this is the
Oh, wow.
so this is a drawing version of,
Yeah.
and so did Turner hack this?
I don't know. I'll try and find out. But see all the people?
Yeah, I think those are people on there.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether this is actually Turner just straight hacking, or this is somebody else's interpretation of Turner's piece.
So
I think that makes
this-
more sense.
So Turner objected to this 1845 engraving
Okay,
by
yeah.
Wilmore,
I definitely see why he objected.
who corrected
Yeah.
the painting by putting
Incredible.
the tug before the smokestack.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, I'm sure Turner was not happy with that. But the thing is I think there's probably more truth in this, meaning is more quote unquote accurate. I think this guy really knew his ships. And that's the thing about marine painters, is that they're real sticklers for attention to detail. They love the ships. It's they're basically model builders with ships. And they love they love knowing about them, and they love showing them. And Turner's Turner's on this higher plane, acknowledging his place in history, making connections to you know, all of that. And so it's just like, it's actually incredible how one is a painting and the other is an illustration. It's like a perfect example of the difference between an illustration, which this is, versus, you know, fine art. And it's not always what you include that matters, it's what you leave out. And this guy kind of overstepped his bounds in terms of including details that you know, Turner was just not interested in including. Yeah, but it's very helpful for us, actually. Very useful indeed. Fascinating. Okay, cool. So thank you very much for that,
Sure.
Grace. Good find. Good find. All right. So that's so cool. All right. So let's think about the shapes. We've got a nice triangle in here, and there's a little side of the bow. So let's make this dark note come forward, and then it's going to faintly transition into like a lighter gray. When I say gray, I mean like a lighter tone. That triangle, the shadow side of the triangle, gets lighter as it approaches the water. And then we're going to have the, what is this called? The side of the boat, this thick rectangle?
So what did we say? We said starboard and
Port.
port.
Port. So there's the two sides of the, like, it's almost like the rim of a bucket. Like,
Port.
It's like the
Oh,
lip of the
all right.
boat.
Port is left. The left side.
Okay, so
Okay.
this, but that's the thing. I mean, is it as you look at the boat, or is it as you're in the boat?
Good question.
I believe it is as you're in the boat.
So there's this longer dark rectangle that curves off to the side. And then there's this lighter rectangle, which when I say it's a lip, I mean that it hangs over and it creates this cast shadow. So we're going to be able to find the lip of the side of the boat, and then we're going to find the actual side of the boat. And this is where we're going to get to find where the water overlaps the boat. And I think that's so important because everybody thinks that, like, not everybody. I mean, when I think about a boat, I think about, you know, almost the boat coming in front of the water, sort of, but really it's the water that's overlapped. There's a lot of boat that's underneath this water.
Yeah.
That's below the surface. Okay, so far we've identified this wedge, which has a light. We've got the you know, the pointy, you know, the pointy. I wish I knew what the title of that was. Then we've got the lip on the left. We've got a lip on the right, and now we've got the watermark, you know, where the mark of the water overlaps the boat. And then now we can finally get into the exciting part. So I don't know how this occurs, but it looks like this drum, the drum of the cylinder of these paddles. It feels like it's not very, it's like just touching the surface of the water. In fact, it looks like it might even be lifted out of the water. So this drum that we're sketching on the side is an ellipse. And the paddles run horizontally. So you have it's a circle, so it's on a central axis, even though we don't see that central axis. If you look under, if we cheat over here, you can see that there's actually a cover to it, and then it makes almost like a perfect semicircle. Do you see that half circle there?
Yeah.
So it's a little ambiguous about how these paddles, you know, enter into the water. I think it's soaked down. So the fact that there's this cover to that, you know, the paddle thing is probably, it's got to be a safety issue, so nobody gets like falls into it and gets like, you know, chopped up. Yeah, so then it almost makes like this column, you know, so I guess you do see a little bit of these paddles here, but again, even in the illustration, it's hard to see, but that they've turned that into a person. There's a person in between. There's a whole little crew on there. I love that little, you can almost see the guy's hat and his like sleeves, I think. Who knows?
Wow.
But when we get into the spirit of this semicircle, you can almost see the case. So you can see the casing with the semicircle here, and then it's got a flat bottom. And then that's where the water is pouring out from underneath that casing. And it goes nice and dark, but you can actually see the bottom of the casing here and the bottom of the casing there. And then there's the paddles that are even below that. Okay, so we've got the paddles that are in the water, creating the splashing. And then the part of the boat that we're seeing are not the paddles, it's the casing of the paddles. Nice. All right, so I'm gonna bypass this little cluster of people. I'm just gonna put some spirals there and put some spirals over here. And then we've got to get the, the element of the smokestack. And if you look at how the objection, one of the major objections that Turner had to have made is look at where the smokestack is here, immediately behind the cover of the one that we just made. And then the relationship between the smokestack and the edge of the boat, there's a gutter. So the space between the smokestack and the boat is very, very close. And I'm sure design-wise, this artist, the illustrator, flips these two, the mast and the sail. And Turner had it the other way. And there must have been, I think there was probably a design reason for it. I don't know if it's this line comes up and then down and then up again. We'll figure that out. But that is a major, major design difference. So let's do the, the vertical was just behind the our original triangle that we built. So I'm just gonna establish that center line, and then I'm gonna try to build the thickness of that smokestack without going too big. I guess I'm going a little bit larger. I can't tell if there's a kind of like a trapezoidal base to it. There seems to be a little bit of a suggestion of a trapezoidal base, but it's nice and straight. You can rely on that. And we are below looking up. So if you look at the top of that rim, it's not a rectangle, it's a cylinder. So we are getting a little rounded cap up here. And then even the highlights, if you look at the highlights, they are giving a cylindrical nature of that below looking up. And if you look at the illustration, the smokestack is almost straight across. Those things must have driven Turner up the wall. I mean, when we talk about it being rejected, that print being rejected for so many reasons. But that those things are just like, you can't live with that when somebody is sorry. All right, so I love that another really wonderful variation between the illustration and Turner's. Logically, we're building this drum, so the top of the drum would have this flat top. So it would have a flat top here, and it would have a curve. You'd see the inside of the curve here. So you have the semicircle on the inside, and then the silhouetted edge, which is curving on that side, and then it has this flat top. And Turner, for design reasons, I would imagine, rejects that formal nature, and he basically gives us a curve. And that curve, I've been noticing that there's like a lot of these curves that happen abstractly in the rest of the picture from the sails, and also specifically in the moon, and I guess in the sun, if you think about it. So this curve here, this variant on the actual engineering, this curve, the circle, works better on a design level because it relates to the rest of the picture. Is it an accurate representation of the ship? No. Is that the point of it? No. The point is to make it work with the picture, to be harmonized with the other elements of the picture. The paddle is the moon. The moon is the sun. The sun is the paddle. And that's what separates an artist from an illustrator. Well, it does look like he gives us, in this little shadow here, he does give us a little bit of action with the water spilling out. And the water spilling out is anatomical, quote unquote, but it's also the halo. And that's what's kind of neat about what's going on here. So I may actually just put this little golden glow around here where you can't tell if it's the ship behind it. You can't tell if it's the water. It might be, it could be a glow off of the side of the paddle. There's a light halo here that's golden that is not particularly identifiable. It's, and that's where you could almost call it abstract. It could be a variety of things. I want to put this other ship in here, the side, this little, the bow of this boat. I'll just do it. But I'm really coming back to the side here, and I want to show the back of the bow here. So we got the water that's kind of spilling out of the paddles, making some, reflections on the, some splashes on the water. But we've got to get the back of the boat, the back of the tugboat, and that's where our little character is. We'll just call this a man. And we get the first indication of the aerial perspective. So the back of this boat, if we were to shade in our tugboat here, this is going to be faded and in lower contrast. The colors in the front of the boat are going to be higher intensity, warmer. Look at how this is a neutral and a kind of a gray, and these are solid and bold and thick paint. So even the back of the boat is like a semi-transparent paint. Here, these are bold brush strokes, juicy, juicy highlights. Whereas back here, it's going to be lower contrast and, just not as, it's going to be low contrast and low intensity and thinner paint. So back here is lower contrast, lower intensity, thinner paint. Up here is higher contrast, higher intensity, bold colors, and then really thick brush strokes. It's no doubt that what the commentary that he's making about the tugboat, and it is there's nostalgia, but it's also admiration. So we've got our little sketch here, and I think we have all the elements. I mean, I guess we could add some dots. I'm going to put a dotted line. I did a little spiral line here for these warm notes of the crew down here, and there could even be like some bright red of almost like flames. I'm not exactly sure, but that feels red in here. And the red association with the smokestack and the smoke that's coming out, those are flames coming out of there. So there is a reflection of the sun, but they are, that is meant to be fire. And there's a connection between here and the sunset, once we get there. So the color connection between what's happening in the expulsion from the smokestack versus what's happening at the bottom, color-wise, it's a connection. So but then behind that is this misty splashing. All right. The question is whether we should shade this thing in, or whether we should sketch in the other ship, and then we'll sketch them both together. I think that might be wise to come into this boat, because the boat behind it is going to have, it's kind of like the left side of the eye and the right side of the eye. It's going to have a lot of the same stuff. And the lighting is going to be the same. It's just going to be in lower contrast, and it's going to be, it's going to be amazing to see how all these decorations have to be, muted in terms of color and in terms of basically value contrast in order for that boat to go back in space and not compete with the tugboat. And if we just look here at this, this is in higher contrast, but the boat itself isn't more glorious than the boat behind it. The boat behind it is, you know, this is in higher contrast, but it's like, it's not the star of it's not the star. It's just the boat and its complexity competes with the tugboat, where, you know, there's no question in this picture. All right, so we're going to start with the same place. So we're going to find the this bow of the boat, and we're going to see how close it is to the back. So we're going to find this contact point, find this angle, and it's going to come up nice and tall. It comes up even higher, you know, than the paddle on the other side, and it's going to angle up. It's going to be a vertical, and then it's going to go all the way up to the top. And it's actually this pointy nature of the boat. It swells up and it hits this point, and it overlaps with the smokestack up here. So this is there's a contact point back here where the boat overlaps, but then this is and this might actually be touching. The smoke might actually be touching the that piece of wood. Wowzers. All right. This is going to be actually fun. The way that we drew the mountain is actually going to be very helpful for this cone shape. It's just going to be inverted. So we made we started from the top of the mountain, and we came down, widening to the bottom. We're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to widen up to the top. And I think the mountain basically was in 3, maybe 4 parts. And I think the cone for this front part of the boat is at least in 3 parts. So let's do the first cone first. So we're going to get the contact point of the water. It's a little ambiguous because of the splash that happens. It's going to arc up, and then we're going to hit the vertical moment, and then we're going to arc up, and I actually go off screen. The point of the boat comes up, and that's all right. I'll be able to fix that later. It's actually kind of similar to the wing of the bird as well. So meaning that like each section of the wing, shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, wrist to the fingertips, had different sets of feathers, and our boat is going to have that. I think that same kind of arrangement. So we need a upside down pyramid. So we're going to get this wall. Oh, I already made it go up too high. I love it. All right, so I'm going to start a little bit lower because it has to come out of the same water. All right, so that goes a little lower, then the vertical will come here. Okay, so now the right side of that pyramid is going to almost run into the head of our little character, which is true. The edge of the boat right here passages behind the paddle. So it actually passages behind the head of our guy who's on the back of the boat. Wonderful. Then we're going to come down this side. See the other side of the pyramid. Now, if you were to look at the peak of the pyramid, it's like way below the water. So you almost imagine that if this is the water line, the pyramid goes down below, and it's going to reemerge up here. So this is the shaded side of our bow, just like we had just like we had the shaded side of our triangle here. We're going to have the shaded side of our triangle there. I wasn't planning on it, but I think because of the softness of the tone of that triangle, I have to soften it up. And then the next part of the boat has this very impressive curvature, creating this side of the boat. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the gridding that existed on the fields. This sweeps up, and then we get the opposite side, which is essentially the foreshortening side. So whatever's on the left is going to be on the right, and it sweeps up, and it's going to have that gridding. The last part of the boat is going to be the flat top. And this is the last part of the front of the boat. Put the flat top here. I love these little, the sweep, this like little dip. It has kind of a capstone on one side. And I looked for it there. So then I went up to the right side and I found the capstone on that side, which is kind of nice.
Excuse me, Trevor.
Yes, Dave.
What is the capstone?
It's this little knob. I just invented the term. So the front of the boat, points out to where the direction it's going, and then it dips down really low here.
Mm-hmm.
And then where it ends, it kind of flattens out. So I call it a capstone, but it's not a capstone. I just found that this dips down and there's a little horizontal. This dips down, there's a little horizontal. So I'm just trying to get oriented with, the nature of the ship.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so now to make Steph happy, the point that the part that she pointed out earlier, which was really wonderful, which I had not seen, was this orange semicircle, the little orange semicircle that happened above the sun. Now that semicircle, I believe, is going to be used in kind of the belly of this boat. So bear with me, and I hope I'm not wrong. But the belly of the boat is this semicircle. Do you see like the arc that runs through? It's like so if this is the side here, the water line comes out further, and then you get this big egg shape or big barrel. And if you were to remove the part that we just drew, it would be a semicircle, very similar in proportion to the sun that's on the opposite side of the picture. And on top of that, there's like these radiating lines that come from the sides, like almost like this ribbing. I'm not sure what this. Oh, let's go back. Let's go to our cheat sheet here. Wow. Okay, so maybe the ribbing comes from the shadows from these masts, because the lights. Is that what this is? These shadows here? Is that from
looks
from the masts?
it almost looks like there still are some cannons sticking out of the windows.
Definitely, if they're not cannons, they're definitely the cannon windows.
Okay.
They like flop up. There's a really awesome.
Oh, it might be the shadow of the long pointy thing.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yes,
that's
look
called.
at that. Yeah, so this here,
Yeah.
it's down, and then it creates the shadow here. Yep. There's another one on that side. But look, I mean, it's just amazing. Like, I don't even know what this vertical element is. You see this vertical element that like closes off this side? It's almost like a grip. This thing. Where on this boat, I mean, the illustrator was trying to honor the boat. I mean, I understand why they would do this. These side planes, these open windows. It was a great battleship, and look at there's a 1, 2, 3, and they're going back in space. I guess that's what happens here. If you get the flat top, then we get 1, 2, and then 3. I don't know if they're in the right position. One, 2, 3. Oh man. And I just realized why. I'm like, why are these masks not working? The masks are light up against dark. So when we think about as we go into shading our tugboat, it's mostly a dark up against the light. Now, the front of the bow is definitely a light because of the sun, the setting sun is hitting it. So the water is darker and the bows and the side of the boat is lighter, but everywhere else it's a dark against light. Whereas this boat is really perfectly shaded in a kind of a traditional way, in that the light mass is a light up against a dark, and then as you move to the shadow side of the boat is a dark up against the light, and there's a light halo silhouetting the edge of that boat too. And it is a color contrast as well. So you have a warm yellow orange against the blue. You have a neutral dark yellow orange up against a blue. But the sky is darker on this side, and you can see it. It's a dark halo, whereas the boat here, the blue sky is a light halo. It's a light boat up against a dark halo, dark boat up against a light halo. So that'll be helpful, when we shade this guy. Should we let's I say we shade the boat. Are there other players that need to be acknowledged? I guess there's the sail. Look at this golden rod. I mean, the ship that's behind the tugboat on the right is essentially gold. I mean, it is just a yellow boat, and the mast is like a golden yellow, and then the sail is like a golden white. I think we should show that. There must be a second ship back here. There's a white sail. I'm looking for things that are going to need to be colored. The white, I'm almost protecting the white of the sail because I know it's going to need a dark background, and that dark gray background is going to be way light compared to the smokestack, which is going to be the darkest moment. So that's interesting too. When you think about the background here, it's a golden light up against a dark blue sky, and then that dark blue sky is really a light compared to the black of the smokestack. Now the smokestack might even have a light halo next to it in that triangle. Maybe that is what this cord does. The cord dividing, the rope, I guess you would call it, separates the triangle of the sky next to the mast of the smokestack versus the triangle of the sky next to the mast. And this triangle of the sky next to the mast matches the sky that's next to the boat. Yeah. Excellent. So these little spaces between, they become all like almost like tile work. You can think about our composition as a stained glass window. All right, let me zoom out a little bit so that we can just clearly establish the background. It's not going to be clear because the background is not clear, but there is a light on the water, and then there's a dark blue on the water. I'm just trying to find a place where I can separate the sky from the earth. And he does not make it easy. It's so good. So it goes tugboat, which is dark, high contrast. Then it goes golden halo, second boat. And then there's a third boat that's way off in the distance that I think is a similar ship to the sailing ship. It's way, way off there. And then you have these, basically trapezoid shapes. And I made that way too high. It's incredible. You want to see how low, you know, this distant ship only comes up halfway up that mast. And the only reason I'm putting this in, because we're doing a drawing, is that when we shade the sky, the sky is going to be dark. He painted the sky first and then painted the masts on top of the blue sky. We don't have that luxury. And then just like Van Gogh, he gives us this little teeny boat, this little teeny sail way off, and it even reflects into the water. And you know, I think that's even you know, subject to change. The reason I want to zoom in a little bit and shade this boat is because I want to be able to then come in and do the reflections. But you're not going to be able to paint or to sketch the reflections unless you know what's going on in the boat. As I even pull away at this, there's this real, you know, we talked about the Vesuvius having a suggestion of movement. Well, these waves, you know, that frame out the right and the left is a wake. That's the wake being created by the tugboat moving in, I believe. So I think we should, you know, acknowledge that there's a light wake that wraps around here and then also comes across and wraps around here. The tugboat stack comes higher than the deck of the ship behind. And that is probably, you know, symbolic to a degree. I'm gonna have to add some paper in order to get the smoke, but that's okay. So just to reiterate where we're going here, we're going to basically do everything. We're not going to sketch the water necessarily. We're going to do everything above the water, including the sky. So we can't not shade the sky. If we want to get the light halo, yes, we have to shade the boat, which will be dark. But to get the halo, you have to show the sky because it's a dark sky. In order for the light of this halo to show up, it needs to be framed both above and below. So the below is easy. The sky is above. And my sky is going to go off screen, unfortunately, for the time being. But all of the darkest elements are going to be happening within our boat. And then like the lightest elements are also going to be happening in terms of the background of the tugboat. All the contrast is going to be reduced when we're going in to shade the ship's last moments. So I can be really bold. We're using graphite, and I love graphite, but the graphite's weakness is its inability to go truly dark. It always stays at like a dark gray, like a value of like a 7 or an 8. So by establishing how dark is the darkest that this pencil is able to go, I'll be able to gauge the rest of the picture. So when I said that I didn't want you to shade the water, so the smokestack has a light side and a shadow side. Now the right side that's in the light, it does have a dark line around it. So the highlights are on the right side of our smokestack. The point I was going to make is that you can add a little bit of reflection. I think it's actually healthy to put a little bit of the reflection in there just to begin the awareness. Now, we're unable to do extreme contrast because of the limitations of our graphite. We're also limited to do extreme color contrast because there is no color contrast. It's all the same gray. So if you wanted to, if you had to make your tugboat a little darker, you kind of have the green light to do that because we're going to have a contrast between the boat and the sky, and it can't be color. And the boat, of course, is warm and the sky is cool. We're running out of time. I think we're going to be all right, though. I've got my mist, I've got my one sail, and now I have my sky. It's a really beautiful tone. I think I just heard the horn in the tugboat.
It's my phone vibrating.
Oh, the sky. I mean, I don't regret doing all of the all of the details of the ship and digging into the ship, but where the fun and the play and the excitement and the freedom, I think, is going to come is when we get into the sky, and I'm already enjoying it. With just the little amount of sky that we have between the smokestack and the sails, the water is also going to be really cool. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So I feel good about my ship, my tugboat rather, and I want to get into the ship, kind of badly. The highlights on the second paddle, you really got to protect. You got to protect those lights. And I'm going to sketch, I think, most of the ship behind. I'm going to sketch most of that with my my tortillon. And I'm thinking right side light, left side shadow. This is the shadow silhouette, unifying all of those. And then I might actually even shade in the whole sky with my blue midtone. And in order for those masts to present themselves, I have to erase. The deck of the boat has horizontal striations. And they play counter to the vertical mast. So I'm drawing the edge of the mast and toning the sky at the same time. The sky does go darker. There's this little highlight over here, which is the moon. And then we're going to have a dark silhouette to the base of that boat, ship rather. The water is kind of overwhelmingly darker, but then it's got those the white highlights of the splashing. So that's going to be an interesting play with pencil.
Trevor, this is a great class. I have to go.
But
Yeah,
no,
happy to finish this up next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think Steph, you're gonna really like this guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have fun with that. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
So I'm trying. I might have to cut the side. That's what I'll do. I'm gonna slide this over. And I'm gonna cut this side so we can get a sense of the shadow, or not the shadow, but the reflection. Lucky for me, I have a wonderful pair of scissors. Almost. Will I be able to fit them both? Just barely. Oh my, so I'm looking at a couple things about my own drawing, which you may want to consider yourself. There's a really, the edge of the right side of the boat, you could probably really push the shadow of that. And at the same time, as you make the background darker here, push the darkness of the shadow side of the boat. So at least in your head, you have a light boat, light ship up against the dark of the sky, then you have a dark ship up against a gray sky. The anatomy of the boat is so interesting. So you have this mast that just gets like so stretchy. And I wonder if he's mimicking, do you see the form underneath here? This form really looks a lot like that form. So this boat, if you were to sketch it, I don't know if it would make that same reflection. I'm not really sure, but if you look at how the look of the curvature and the long, massive extension, it's very similar to the you know, the tugboat reflection looks more like the reflection of the ship than anything else. Yes, there is a reflection of the smokestack. And you get the right side. I mean, this is the curvature of the paddles. And you get this kind of this column of the paddles here. I made it too big. Sorry, let's see if we can find the reflection of our ship. So the pyramid almost continues down. This long vertical, and then this swoop here, I think is this swoop here. This and this. And now we have the bottom of the picture. We have essentially this light orange column of color that goes all the way down X and Y. X. Towards the bottom, there are these Y notes. This dark cluster. And then these light squiggles. There's a lot of reflections in water, just really interesting. That contact point with the water, with the boat. I have to zoom out a little bit more. This type of drawing is very painterly. You lay the pigment down, manipulate it, blend it, erase it, add more. Wow. I love the golden reflections in the water here. All right, in the last couple of seconds here, I'm just gonna shore up a little bit of the values and the lines in the boat. I guess the crew really does matter, because the crew, it's got its ambiguity, but its value is that of the boat. So that really makes a difference. There's a side of me that really wants to make the boat darker in general, even though these colors are really bold and they're lighter value. The fact that the colors pull it out, but without toning it, the boat gets lost with the drawing, that is. And then it's amazing how high contrast, even though the back of the boat is softer, the ship is so light up against it. It really creates a lot of contrast. I'm glad that I really did not add, at least in the light side of the ship, I'm glad I didn't add a lot of pigment, because you need that to be light up against the blue sky. And you do want a value contrast between the shadow side of the boat and the light side of the boat. So even though we can't go that dark in the shadow side of the boat, it's by making the light side, almost pure paper rather, with zero pigment, allows for that contrast. Yeah, where this is challenging, I think, is that his painting goes so dark, and graphite just doesn't go that dark to get the kick that we're, you know, the kick that it really needs. You know, so it's almost like where the boat is most successful is where it's up against the lightest part of the paper. All right, well, does anybody have any questions or comments? I'm going to try and unify the water at least with some midtones, and then I can possibly pull out some lights with my shadow, with my eraser. I think if I can calm the water, the boat will do better about what it's supposed to do.
Mary, can I interrupt you just for a moment? Hi, would you hold up your Mount Vesuvius? You were away when we took that little break, and I didn't get a pic of yours, if you don't mind. Or just send it to Trevor. Oh, that's great. If you can hold it a little to your left and freeze. Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary.
I know there's only a couple people left, but I'm going to stop the share, and then could I see what yours looks like? I keep forgetting to check halfway through, but we did get to check the Vesuvius. Adele, how's yours looking?
Do you want pictures of this halfway mark?
Sure.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, it is beautiful. I think that that's even better. I think it's even better than you might know. I think mine is too, actually. But I think once the rest of the sky, the ephemeral transitions and color and movements of value structure in the sky happen, this is going to really, really stand out and be even more beautiful. Yeah. That sounds great. I don't have any recommendations. I think at this point, you can't even judge it because there's just not enough info. You know what I mean? There may be changes that could happen if, you know, once the sky and the moon and the sun and the water gets in there. But before then, there's nothing to be done except for prayer. Okay, Mary, I'm gonna pin you. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry. You're on mute though. I'm sorry.
I did mine in colored pencil.
Okay.
I started adding graphite, and then I got kind of bored.
Nice.
Beautiful. Can you hold that a little more to you? And beautiful. Just freeze that. Lovely.
That's really pretty. And surprisingly, the graphite, the color pencil seems to be working nicely with the graphite. It may just be because of the camera. I know that in person, graphite and color pencils don't work, but then you photograph it or you show it on the screen and it does work. So I'd have to see it in person to really make sure, but that's a very cool drawing. So
well, it did work actually to go in later and point things up with like a charcoal pencil.
Charcoal pencil is definitely going to give it the pop. And I was going to say that if you use color pencils, it's better to just only use color pencils. But it can be integrated with other medium.
And then what also really helped was some white chalk that I had, where I could go in and lighten up things that were too dark. So.
Yeah. And that's also the beauty of oil paint, is that you can that mist that he puts in, that halo that he puts in around the water, that's all additive. And that's all painted on top of previous colors.
Yeah, there's a lot of glazing in the painting, I think.
Yeah. And there's a lot of impasto. I mean, he really was able to be playful with like the thick and the thin.
Grace.
Grace, how are you? And then Stacy, I guess you're the last one.
Oh, great.
DeVito.
Beautiful.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could hold off on it. I think it's a good idea to not necessarily put it inside of a rectangle, but if you can follow the reflection and get to the bottom, and then you can, follow the horizon line and get to the left, then at least you have that the bottom and the left. And then as we move across into the sky and the geometry of the sky, then you'll be able to establish the right side and the top. And that's
Trevor.
It's true for everyone.
Can I see yours once again, please? I didn't get a shot of yours.
Hold on.
Sure.
Okay, so you're pinned too, Stace. Here, what about that? Oh, that's why.
Closer to you. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Closer to your left. Closer to your left.
Oh, this way.
Yeah. No, your left. That's your right, isn't it? There you go. Freeze.
Okay. There's a delay.
Yep. Good, good.
Sweet.
Okay. So here's mine that I finished, sort of, kind of.
There you go. Oh, nice.
Ooh, that is
Very
nice.
nice.
Very nice.
Very
Very
good.
good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
And I stopped on the other one because I started way, way, way too small. So I'm going to start the entire thing over.
Oh, boy.
Can I see it though?
Do I have to?
No. Of course not. Of course not.
Oh,
Do you see how small
that's
it
not
is?
too small.
I don't think it's too small.
Mine is smaller than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go much bigger. It might not fit on that page. Might not fit on the page.
It felt really tight, like too tight. Maybe I just need, I don't know what I need, quite frankly.
Maybe a smaller tortillon.
You know, that's a good point.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm afraid.
That was a hard one. But I think it'll be. I think the payoff will come with dessert next week.
Certainly, there's a lot happening in a small space with all these bows.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, ladies, I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy Easter, Trevor.
Oh, thank you so
Happy
much. Happy
Easter.
Easter.
Trevor, thank